Good afternoon to all of you. A warm welcome to all of us, and for our participants currently based in Ghana, we say Happy Independence Day to the Ghanaians on the call. Today is March 6th, 2021, and we are marking the day with our Open Data Day event. It's a worldwide event, and for the past 5 years, iWatch Africa has been organizing Open Data Day events consistently, and we've been doing this, of course, with the support of Open Knowledge Foundation. On this 2021 Open Data Day event, our focus mainly is on how we can leverage open data on abuse of women within the digital ecosystem in Ghana to promote equal development within the digital space in Africa. And we have a very varied audience. We have a guest speaker from Namibia, and we also have a guest speaker from Kenya. We also have a speaker who is part of the iWatch team. He's a co-founder of iWatch Africa. He is also with us, and we will begin with him very shortly. But then before we move ahead, I'll just quickly introduce my other colleagues who are also on the call. We have Justice, who is hosting us. He is a co-founder of iWatch Africa. We have Banini, who is also a co-founder of iWatch Africa. And we also have Moro, whom we'll be hearing from shortly. Now, increasingly, women are silenced online. A 2020 survey by UNESCO in 15 countries, of which Ghana was part of, found that 73% of women respondents had experienced some form of violence within the digital space. And we understand the negative implications of some of these abuses on women journalists or female journalists to chill critical journalism, and it also demoralizes a lot of women from getting into the journalism profession and taking on contested social and political issues. So this particular forum is to look at some of these discussions, but then I wouldn't want it only to be a talk shop. At the end of the day, and for the past 4 years, that is what we've been doing. At the end of the events, we could have a resolution, and we could look at the way forward in terms of concrete actions we can take collectively and also as an organization to help bring some sanity or promote cyber hygiene across the continent. So thank you all very much for joining us. I would invite our first speaker for the day in the person of Moro Seidu. Moro Seidu is a country director of Cocoa 360, and he's also a co-founder of iWatch Africa. He leads our monitoring and evaluation team, and he's also a fellow of the Young African Leaders Initiative. So Moro, if you are with us, kindly take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Gideon. Thank you for the introduction as well. As you said, this interaction or this discussion shouldn't be that of a talk show or a talk shop. It should be that which is more interactive. So in the course of my discussion, maybe I will be calling upon you and
oh, this is not to
our
catch
other
you. Can
colleagues.
You speak up a little bit?
I'm saying I don't know whether friends on this space heard me. Thank you for the introduction. As you said earlier on, this interaction is not going to be that which is more of a talk show or a talk show. It will be that will involve all of us. Now back to the main subject line: digital abuse on social media platforms or online platforms, especially on the female gender. let us all acknowledge the fact that the introduction of social media platforms has more or less enhanced communication and also enhanced individual participation on on the on social media platforms. Not withstanding that, iWatch Africa and other media organizations or other research centers have identified a challenge which is very unfriendly to the female gender. Last year, it is 2020, in our survey, we identified some anomalies which we would like to share with all of you. We tracked 58 journalists on their various social media platforms. Out of these 58 journalists, 28% were women and the other being men. The 28% represent about, let's say, 60 in terms of numbers being female. What we also find out was that even though the number of journalists in our sample size, few of them were women, but in terms of abuses, the female gender received more abuses compared to their other gender counterparts. Considering our data, we realize that out of about 26,000 abuses, 54% of the abuses were on women. I wouldn't like to be explaining the ups and downs of these data. I know once my other colleagues come, they will do justice to that. Which shows that the female gender in our media space is more or less very uncomfortable. Moving further to our data, we also realize that within 6 months, within every 6 months period, every female journalist actually received over 610 abuses. That means 160, 10 or 1:610. When you compare this same figure to their male counterpart, you realize that even though the male counterpart also receives abuses, but it's only 1:280, 280. So comparing this to that of the female gender, it tells us clearly that the female gender is more abused on our digital platforms. This has always led to discomfort among the female journalists when anytime they are on our digital platform. They also find it very difficult in concentrating. And most often they try to avoid certain people because certain people's or place because it reminds them of that incident or their abuses. Considering these numbers, it actually tells us that it is very, very important for us as media practitioners, social media players, to come together to discuss this very challenge which is leveled on our female journalists and rights activists. It is because of this reason today we have all gathered here to actually discuss among ourselves. As I told you right from the beginning, we don't want this discussion to be a one-man talk show. It should be that involves other people's opinion. On that note, if the coordinator will permit me, I would like to open the floor for other members on this platform to also contribute to whatever information I have shared right now. Gideon, is that allowed?
Yeah, so I think we will have a session for a bit of open forum, where we will allow members on the Zoom platform to also share their views. But then once you are done, we could move directly to our guest speakers. But then one important thing which you said in terms of the data, I think that the data is on our platforms. You can find this data on iWatchAfrica.org. Last year, major focus with support from CEPESA was to track digital abuses, digital rights abuses of journalists and also human rights activists. So the data is accessible on our platforms. We will quickly move on to our next guest speaker. She is a technology lead at Namshue Digital. She is also a media and communication lecturer. She is the founder of Internet Society Namibia chapter. Nashilongo Gervaslus is also an open internet for democracy leader. Nashilongo, if you are here with us, we really appreciate you making time to join us. And we give you the floor to talk to us about your experience and the way forward. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Gideon, and hello to everyone on the call. I'm pleased and happy to have been invited and be part of this talk today. Not only because it's open day to day today, but also because it runs up to International Women's Day, that the world is marking on this Monday. So very pleased and very excited to be here. I think Gideon has done a very good introduction to who I am and what I do. I think like my colleague Gideon and Sheilah, and of course by introduction, many of you, I've also been engaged in the digital rights space, and gender issues are very particular to my interest. So perhaps I thought, I don't know if we are all on the same point in terms of understanding, or should we perhaps start with the defining of those concepts, especially in relation to data usage. I'm pleased to understand that iWatch is or has been conducting study particularly on this subject. And I'm also very encouraged by what was it Moro or was it Justice who shared the results of that study and how it sort of painted what is happening in Ghana. I was looking forward to see more women on the call, and especially women journalists from Ghana for this particular instance, because this is a matter that is affecting them, but also is part of them. All right, so online abuse, perhaps we could start by defining such concept, since okay, I don't know. I think
Felix, can you mute your mic, Felix? Kindly mute your mic.
You can't. The host should mute me.
All right. I think Felix sound will possibly get in control. But for now, I would want to paint the danger of the issues of particularly female journalists and what they encounter online. I think my colleague earlier has shared that women in particular are in a precarious situation or position, so to say, because we could be, me and you could be writing the same story, and by the mere fact that I'm a woman, I would receive, especially online, I receive heavier criticism. And that's because the internet, as we know, is a reflects what the values and the morals of the people that uses it. For Africa in particular, this is challenging because of our patriarchal communities and values that we are raised with, that holds women to a different level of not really accountability, but look at women through different lenses, especially those related to tradition, what they're supposed to be doing, how they're supposed to be acting, and how they're supposed to be behaving themselves. And those same values should not be applying to men. And it's because of that then that more women get more abused, nuanced or direct, in terms of how they behave or how they react or how they ask questions. It can be literally anything, and that makes them more vulnerable. I'll tell you a small story. So there's a prominent journalist in Namibia, for instance. She covers the presidency and all the other issues. Few days ago, I think she had a rant on Facebook just about how she was told by I think state officials that she shouldn't be very emotional for why there's no women in a particular setting. I think that's what he was saying. But only even just to that, it's this kind of abuses happens. Like I'm seeing now somebody just sent me a DM here that says, I'll just take a photo of that. Somebody just sent that to me, and it says, you are looking hot, dear. Looking at you, I'm getting boner. I'm now moving my hand over my penis, and I wish you could move your hand over my penis. Do you understand that? That whoever is part of this discussion wouldn't do that or wouldn't send that to Gideon. And that's the kind of abuse that women are not only facing on as journalists, but on every platform. A platform like this, I expected.
Nashilongo, hold on. Justice,
Yeah.
is there a way we can mute Felix because this network is interrupting the presentation?
Yes, and please, if you can, Gideon, as the host, I'm sorry to do this to your discussion, but please, if you can bump off Huawei Y6S and get that person off this platform, because they just sent me abusive message that I was just reading to you.
Okay, so Justice, Huawei Y6X, can you take him off?
Yes.
Yes. Huawei Y6X.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moving forward, the challenges that women journalists are facing is not just is beyond sexual harassment. It's beyond. It can be anything. It could be a pic of their tone. It could be a pic of what they're wearing. It can be literally everything. And so this is becoming very, very challenging, especially within the digital ecosystem. The digital ecosystem should be open and should be safe for all players within the society who uses digital means of communication. That said, women generally, apart from women journalists, have challenges of accessing technologies, because as a woman, I have to think twice about, should I buy bread, or should I buy a smartphone for me to be able to access technology and tap into the opportunities that lies within, because of those economic reasons. So we have to think of community and society entirely different from men, and that is a known fact. But also because the ICTs, the technologies, the digital platforms are very challenging. They are very challenging already to access for a lot of women, because of what they require, for instance, digital skills, access once again, which is funding, but also the time to get online and to be productive. Getting back to journalists, and female journalists in particular, it becomes even cumbersome already, given the much stereotypes already within the media, about what a woman journalist can do and what women journalists can do. It is a known fact, for instance, that many women journalists are not or do not many women journalists do not sorry, this abuser is back online, please. And if nothing happens, I'm gonna have to log off from the call, Gideon. Not because I fear abusers, because I know I can stand up to them, but it's just because you ought to make this at least a little bit more safe.
Yeah, I think he has been taken off. I don't see him.
I think he came back.
Okay, so I think he's off now. We would make sure he doesn't get back. Thank you.
Yes, but if you identify anyone, let us know.
Because we wouldn't tolerate such behavior here. All right, go ahead.
All right. Already, previously I was referring to stereotypes that already exist within the media space. That more women journalists are more likely to do or to be covering, for instance, entertainment as a beat compared to, say, politics and economics and things like that. And added the burden of online abuse, that makes it even harder, that especially the university class that I have, which is first years, second years, and third years. Over 60 students that I have in my class. I have, is it 10%, possibly only 5%, who are interested in doing mainstream journalism because of a lot of these things. Already the field is not very it's not very stable. The field of journalism does not offers as much stability, especially in the digital space, and there's so many challenges already, and of course we cannot be having
I'm so sorry. Can go on.
So I'll end there.
All right, thank you very much, Nashilongo. For some weird reason, today we are really having a very terrible time with participants joining us and disrupting our event. But I mean, we will continue. And also, I want to say that, Nashilongo, we thank you very much for making time. And it's unfortunate that a participant here would target you in such a very distasteful manner. We are strongly against such attitude, and that is actually the essence of this meeting, to look at the way forward and find concrete solutions to some of these digital rights abuses in this context. So we will quickly move on to our next guest speaker for the day. She is Sheilah Birgen. Sheilah Birgen is a Kenyan, and she is a CEO of Sheilah Birgen is the CEO of the court based in Kenya. The court actually focuses on ecosystem building, policy creation, and also advocacy. Sheilah is also a colleague Open Internet for Democracy leader, and she is a board member of several international organizations. We are very much grateful to have Sheilah join us today to spare us some time as we discuss some of these very pertinent issues. Sheilah, you are welcome. Take over.
Thank you. So, first of all, thank you so very much for inviting me. I request to not put on my video, just because I think I've been in a number of such conversations when we talk about women issues, and it mostly happens on Zoom, that you will have Zoom bombers that will disrupt such meetings. So maybe for the host, you can mute everybody and not allow people to unmute themselves, maybe just the speakers, so that when they join in, they are not able to do that. They might try also video and stuff, but I think if you revoke the rights, it's easy for, they will not be able to bomb. So thank you so much again.
Sheilah?
Yes?
Yes, actually, I've logged the meeting. I'm not admitting any more people.
Oh, perfect. Great. Okay, then I think I can.
Yes.
I was a bit worried about that. So thank you very much for inviting me for this very useful conversation. It's something that personally I experience a lot online. I think just having a voice as a woman is a big challenge. And I also work with a number of media startups that I mentor in East Africa. And for the women, unfortunately, this is a conversation that we tend to have quite often. So I think just to start this conversation, I think the state of online bullying, I'll call it that, and violence against women has been growing significantly, because I think it's, so there's a guy called Isaac Barr. I don't know who that is.
That's the guy. Please, that's the guy, and he's online. Please take him off, Gideon.
So he keeps changing the name. He was Isaac Barr, now he's Robert, that Robert guy. Now he's back to Isaac Barr, so he's the one. So anyway, he keeps changing the name. So whoever, the person who keeps changing the name, I think for the host, you can check that. So this is not something that is not uncommon. It happens a lot, unfortunately, for women leaders. And I think even beyond the journalist, I think with the new WTO executive director, I think the media houses, the stories they were publishing about her, it was not about her credentials, it was not about the good things she's done, it was trying to demean her to show that she's not fit for that position. This is not because she, she's African, it's mostly because she's a woman. And I think this is not also something that does not happen online. I think what has happened is the online space has allowed people to be more courageous to bully people, because you can put a different name, you can put a picture that is not yours, and you can delete that account immediately. You've abused me. And so you think you can get away with it. And so because of that, it's so easy for people to target women whenever they feel, they want, to bully someone. It is quite unfortunate for journalists, because they're in the public eye. And I think if you try and assess and look at data on women journalists who do political stories in Africa, there are quite few. And it's because politics is very emotive in Africa. A lot of people get very personal with politics, and for a woman, they will target you because of that. They will abuse you, they will call you names, they will say, oh, you're sleeping around with these people. It's always that that type of narrative for women. And so a lot of women, even though they could be very, passionate about politics, they want to put out factual stories about politics, they want to follow their path in that direction, because of such things, they are always scared. Because unfortunately for politics especially, it actually crosses offline. People will target you, they will look for you, they will hit you. It happens even to male journalists. And so you will find even in the editorial rooms, they will not easily let a woman go to a political rally because they know you become an easy target because of that. And for a number of media houses, they used to provide protection for women offline, but that is not easily done online. So offline you can provide security, you can provide people to work with them, and you can ensure that there are measures you put around to protect women. Online, that is not easy to do. And so this brings the issue about big tech as well. Is there anything that these platforms can do to actually protect women more online? Number two, is there anything that the media houses themselves can do to protect the journalist? And number three, what can government do to protect not just women, but I mean everybody online? There are a number of countries, for instance, that in Kenya, we have Computer and Cyber Security Act that is supposed to do this. If you publish any false information about people, if you we also have the Data Protection Act. If you bully someone online, you send death threats and things like this, you are actually liable for this action. So there are a number of things that can be done, but I think fundamentally, as people, we have to do better, because honestly, if we want to have platforms where there's inclusivity, there's diversity of opinions, of views, of a representation, then ultimately we have to have everybody involved. It also goes to the colleagues as well as male counterparts in the media. If you see something like this happening to your colleague, call it out and say, yo, you cannot be doing something like this. You cannot talk to her like that. She's a voice of reason for this issue. She actually knows what she's talking about, because yes, we can protect ourselves, and we try to do that every single day as women in spaces, and especially those in media. You'll find that most of them don't even engage online. They don't respond. They'll post something and just go. They don't want to check the notifications. They don't want to see anything like this. You find a lot of people sending them nude pictures in their private messages. This is something a lot of them talk about. You'll find people who try to tell them, people asking you how much for a day with you. And these are professionals. These are people who are working in media to bring us as citizens information that is useful for us. So I think a bit more respect would be quite, I think, important in that sense. So I think what needs to happen now, I think going forward, I think is to just ensure that, one, this type of behavior is punishable, either through law, ideally through law. Secondly, we provide safe spaces for women to even be able to talk about such issues, because they also affect them psychologically. And you'll find people saying, oh, why are you being so emotional about things? Because I've been abused. Anybody, any human being, if you go through something like this. So media houses should also provide psychological support to, I think, to women in media, especially the ones who go through this often. Provide that to them, and also provide protection online from colleagues, from the rest of us. If we see something like this, I think collectively as a community, we have to call it out, because you cannot hide anymore. People, I think I've seen a number of such conversations online where it's meant to look like it's a gender war. You know, it's men versus women, boy child and girl child, but it's not. It really is not about that. It's about doing the right thing. I don't think if you would see, you know, a group of women insulting a man, that the rest of the guys will be like, hey, you've destroyed her. That is not how to respond to such things. It's not really. It's, you have to ensure that when we see such things, especially as men, you know, when we see such things from our friends, from, you know, people online, then we have to call it out and try to stop this. So I'll stop there, and I hope when we have we'll have a chance for Q&A, then I can talk a bit more.
Fantastic, fantastic. Sheilah, thank you very much. We couldn't have had better guests than Sheilah and Nashilongo join us for today. There are a number of things we will look at as we move towards rounded up. And as I said initially, I wouldn't want this to only be a talk shop where we come and complain about the issues and probably proffer a few solutions without taking concrete steps to bring about the kind of change we all want to see. We've been doing this thing for the past 4 years, and always we try to follow up and come up with concrete solutions. But then you touched on a number of points, which I think it's important moving forward. And I mean, I'll pose a question across board for the three of you, yourself, Nashilongo and Moro. Any of you could actually take up the question. There are a number of levels. We have the big tech responsibility. And for me personally, I believe and I hold the view that they have the ultimate and the biggest responsibility in promoting cyber hygiene within the digital ecosystem, because they have the financial muscle to actually pull that off. So I believe that they have the utmost responsibility. But then my question is that what specific policy areas would you propose to be affected by these big multinational tech companies, which would help promote the kind of cyber hygiene and civil discourse we all want to see within the space? So this is open to, I mean, Sheilah and Nashilongo. Any of you can take it up.
Okay, so maybe I would start. I have walked through programming areas, especially with Facebook, more with Facebook than Twitter, in this instance, on digital rights, and especially on the protection of women and women in general online. In 2019, we held a digital forum for our women parliamentarians, but also women in political spaces and other notable spaces on how to protect themselves online. I think that was, we had funding from Facebook. And platforms should be able to do beyond funding, and obviously hopping into the countries and do this kind of capacity build. Good, and is well, it is necessary. However, even with their, I think everybody knows by now that Facebook has these community standards that teaches you what is acceptable behavior on the platform and how to take it down. Unfortunately, I would want, even maybe perhaps us who are on this call, we might know about it, but how many people know, how many people out there knows about it? I think my colleague Sheilah was just making reference to journalists who have shied away from platforms, like because of the danger of the harassment, the bullying, the doxing, and all the different forms of abuse. They have decided to just, like I said, dissemination tool, and not being a tool where they stay and they engage. So the honors really lies with the platform to make sure. I mean, we know that, for instance, Facebook, but also the big techs, works with artificial intelligence. They know this. They have put up artificial intelligence to use on taking down specific content. Why not effect that to ensure, or to allow journalists, women or women in general, to immediately take down or decide this is warranted content, or this is a unwarranted contact, or this is warranted contact. So I think there's a need for platforms to engage at that level, that especially when these studies have been done for over years, and by not just civil society but by academia, that women violence online is real and it exists, that perhaps they could implement their AI machines or tools to pick up abuses online and automatically notify that to a user. Is this content warranted? Yes, I will click yes, then I will have to engage with that, or no, and then I block that. I think there's a lot of things that needs to be done, but also maybe just to back right on what Sheilah was talking about, without really going back, is that there's a need at policy level within even newsrooms, that newsrooms ensure that the safety of women online is core. At this moment, I bet you in the thousands and thousands of newsrooms in the country, there's possibly no policy or even their editorial policy that speaks on women's safety online. And that talks about just how serious are we about this. We can all sit here and assume that the lack of response, the lack of inaction in that case would be because this is a women issue. Because even the newsroom itself, having been a journalist myself, even the newsroom itself is very toxic, is very, because of its nature of being very manly, being very masculine. It has breeded over the years that masculine toxicity, so to say. So the policies, the editorial, not just content, the employment policies within the newsroom needs to be urgently be relooked at, urgently be reviewed, urgently prioritize women's safety online. And the training needs to happen not just for women journalists on how to protect themselves, and like Sheilah was saying, that also male journalists to be sensitized, to be told, to be understanding of what this is, how they can step in, like Gideon was saying, how to protect and how to call out colleagues in that instances. But also in many countries at national level, in many countries like mine, we don't have a data protection law. We don't have a cyber crime bill that I can go to the police and say this person and this person has abused me. At the Internet Society, the Namibia chapter, a few years ago, we had an instance of one of our members, and I'm retelling her story because she freely tells this story online. For years, has been harassed by a former ex-boyfriend, and when she went to the police laughed at her, like, "Oh, what are you talking about? And what do you expect us to do?" Because at the level also the capacity is not there, but also because of the lack of policy, they wouldn't know, they were not trained about it, and they wouldn't know what to do with it. So they laughed at this colleague and asked them to go to the Women and Child Protection Unit, which are usually units based in hospitals to deal with issues of rape and all of those things. Well, it's possibly a gender issue, yes, and this unit itself, it's not a bad place to refer somebody just because of the lack of knowledge. Well, she went to the Women and Child Protection Unit as well, and also they also didn't know. They all sit there and ask her, okay, so what do we do? How can we help you? I think for a period of 3 months, and her information was online. She had asked obviously friends to block and to report this content. And this person take off, obviously, or Facebook sees the amount of reports, they take down the content, and the person creates another content and repost the abuses that they were doing. So it speaks to policy at those levels. I hope that came out through that at newsroom level, at the national policies at large, but also sensitization and training, capacity training for all these other players in the digital ecosystem, especially those who are supposed to be ensuring the safety of journalists. I just want to draw in a little bit of context in relation to data, but there is also lack of data. Generally, I'm glad to hear that in Ghana, you guys have been doing great work and collecting that data. There is lack of data available for policymakers to take action. That perhaps nobody is doing these studies, but also because of the stigma related to the abuses. Or if I tell my friend that, oh, this guy is showing me a dick online, they're probably going to say, oh, it's just a dick, you know, it's nothing. And so because of that relation, I'm less likely to share that at platforms, unless you have a voice like you are a woman of voice like me or Sheilah or and others who are managing to engage in this space. But this is possibly at the privilege of a few who has this kind of understanding. So the lack of data is, in general, is not the lack of data in general provides a room for inaction by policymakers. They don't see the urgency. Yes, tomorrow one newspaper will be reporting about it, but that's like 1 out of 200,000 cases that are not reported, and so it goes that. So there's a need to leverage on data, but the data needs to be collected, and the data needs to be collected at all the level, including at the police level or in the newsroom level, or in some cases, like I saw with other activists, have a platform where women can come and report and hence become part of the mechanism of collecting data. Thank you.
Fantastic points. I think Nashilongo even went beyond the tech responsibility. She brought a bit in terms of the government responsibility, where she spoke about cyber abuse legislation. She spoke also briefly about responsibilities of CSOs in terms of data collection, and even at the law enforcement level in terms of data collection. Very, very, very insightful point here. Sheilah, would you want to add a few points? But before then, I would want to say that for participants joining us, if you have any any question, kindly type it in the chat box. Kindly type it in the chat box, and I'll read it to guests here. Sheilah, over to you. We have a few minutes. We have barely 10 minutes, so we will try to be very brief. Once we are done, we will highlight the key takeaway points and some of the things we can do moving on from here. Sheilah, over to you.
Yeah, I think I just say two things. One, I think the big tech companies can actually finance the research around this, because we really don't have data. So we need to map and also, I think, identify the trends of discrimination against women online, because even, I mean, for them to know which types of words people use and things like that, it's very, very important. Secondly, I think they have to have an oversight board that actually looks specifically into this issue, because and it should definitely include a lot of women in it, because then there's someone overseeing what they, nobody wants to be told, oh, people are using your platform to actually make things worse for others. So I think that oversight board can actually help. So for big tech, I think either finance the research independently from other people to do this so that we have enough data, and that data then can be used for any other reason, for legislation, for teaching. I think that's something we really overlook, but I think we need to start teaching kids in school about cyber security, about importance of being respectful online. I mean, we were taught when we were growing up about these things. Why not incorporate it in the education system so that if this doesn't happen, I think there will be a continuation. So for the rest of us, because we lacked that, I think it's a high time that, you know, there's a lot of awareness creation around the importance of these issues. Yeah.
Fantastic points. Fantastic points. Moro, do you have anything to add? Okay, it seems Moro is not on the call now, so I mean
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Gideon, I think our facilitators has really done a very good job, and I think they have mentioned whatever I would have mentioned if I was on the platform to speak. So I'll say thank you for their fantastic job.
Thank you very much, Moro. So there are a number of things. I would allow for one or two comments, generally from participants here. Then we will look at the key issues we have outlined. Then we make a resolution. We look at the way forward in terms of the actions we can take. So, I mean, the platform now is open to commentaries from participants here. I am taking two people. Daniel, if you are here.
Yes, good afternoon. I am Daniel Nyorgia, a journalist and an activist on climate change and gender, and with CTFM, CCTV.
Daniel, can you amplify your?
Yes. Hi, good afternoon. I am Daniel Nyorgia, a journalist and an activist on climate change and gender, and a fellow of the Digital Rights, that's iWatch Africa. I would add some comments and then speak on. Put a question shortly. So just realizing that there's issue about lack of data to guide in policy direction. I think it's a key issue, and iWatch Africa putting out data really taught us much. Also participating in workshops where you get to understand that people really have issues and they can speak to it and they have a place to report also helps. And I think just as Nashilongo, if I had the name right, was mentioning about what you determine as an abuse, because a woman tends to speak about private parts sent to her and all that, and her friends shoving it off as nothing. I think the sensitization needs to move to help people understand what indeed is an abuse, so that these things are not seen as normal because it's been accepted and things that have happened every day. Now, my question is that now we're looking at Africa as a whole and looking at creating a safe environment for women in the media. But then also, how does it come to play if in trying to create that enabling environment? Here, I'm talking about how the women also tend to carry out activities and how other fellow women also come out to this issue. So I'm speaking, I'm just trying to just say that what is the role of women and how is the contact of women on online or the cyberspace? Because there have been instances where sometimes the women you're working on and fighting to defend sometimes come out with certain phrases, and you're in a position you don't know whether you should support them or you just keep quiet and just be silent about it. So here, yes, women are being victimized, they are being abused. We are looking at policy direction, looking at data gathering, but then also the women who are trying to come out with it, maybe their fellows are doing other things which necessarily is fighting against the system we have. Because during the data gathering last year, we realized that in as much as you're reporting abuses meted out to them, sometimes they come out with issues. Whether if you're male or female, if you speak about the issue in this light, it tends to, I don't know.
Okay, so I think I get your point and I get where you are coming from. I think to put it in a better context, your concern is that in as much as we are advocating and we are calling for a bit of cyber hygiene, not a bit of, we are calling for cyber hygiene and we are calling for abuse of women journalists to stop. You are also trying to contextualize it in the sense of some women who also abuse others within the digital space. But then I think that is another issue altogether. Let us be very focused here. The focus here is that it is wrong for you to abuse any woman within the digital space or even physically. That is wrong, and that is what we are dealing with. I think if I get you correctly.
If I may come in, I think Daniel is trying to establish the rights that women have in the digital space vis-a-vis the responsibility on them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we are promoting your rights, but you have to also look at the responsibility that comes with the rights or doing the right thing in the media space, or what triggers even the abuse. So,
May I?
Okay, yeah. So we will give a final word to Sheilah, and we will take one more comment from Banini. Then we will look at our resolutions.
So I think the thing about protecting the rights of people, forget the gender, it's just that. It's protecting the rights of people. You will not have a law that will say, for instance, it's only the rights of women. It cannot, it's not possible. It's the right of everyone. And so I think it just so happens to be that women are more abused than men. So when you're protecting that, you're not just protecting women. Even if men would be abused, the same laws would actually still apply to them. Secondly, there's this notion keeps popping up around, but how about the way women carry themselves? I think something that we forget a lot of times is, and I'll use the market analogy. Even in every market, there's a mad person. You cannot say because this market has 3 mad people, we will not clean this market. That's not how you fix the system. You still will need to clean the market, then help the 3 mad people in that market. So in that similar context, if there's a safe space for women online, it will be a safe space for everybody online. Let's just have a better hygiene or a better space online in general. So don't compartmentalize a few to discriminate against a larger group of people. Yeah.
I think fantastic point. Banini, your last comments, then we quickly look at the resolutions.
All right. Thank you very much. I think much appreciation goes to our presenters for the thought-provoking presentations that they've given us. I just simply want to add that in as much as we move to liberalize the media space with more ladies being the voice of the voiceless, we need to understand that these rights are undeniable. It's their rights that goes to everybody, whether you are a female or a male in the media space. So let's just strive to protect each other's rights as we move forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So there are a number of points. I think the first point was that community standards, social big tech community standards are not very well known. So here we are talking about awareness creation, and that is for awareness creation, that is the responsibility of the big tech companies. And as policy analysts on the call, and as also civil society representation on the call, it is also partly our responsibility to call out big tech companies to do the needful. So we as policy analysts and we as journalists and we as civil society actors, we have that responsibility. Then the second major point is that newsrooms in Africa must institute protocols that deal with digital abuse. And here, I think this is something I am working on as a fellow of the Open Internet Leaders program. Here, I think it is something we can all work around, because iWatch Africa, we are in talks with some of our partners, and what we are looking at is bringing on board about 50 media organizations in Ghana and helping their various newsrooms institute digital abuse or digital rights units to track abuses, which can track abuses and also respond appropriately to abuses of their workers. So that is an area I think we can create a resolution around, where we all jointly be committed to being part of this particular program. It is something which can be replicated in other jurisdictions, in other regions across the continent, because ours will mainly focus on the West African region, but it is something which can be replicated within the Southern zone, within the Eastern Africa, and also within the Central African zone. Then finally, in terms of government responsibility, we are talking about cyber legislation. And here, I think as civil society actors, policymakers, and journalists, we are also supposed to be very engaged with the legislation process, because we know that some governments would want to take advantage of some of these legislations and grab a lot of power within the digital ecosystem context. So we have to be pretty much engaged. So we are living here with a main resolution that before the close of 2021, as part of iWatch Africa's initiative, we are going to mainstream gender rights issues in at least 50 media organizations. If you all agree, can I hear a yeah? Then we can sign up for this.
Yeah.
Fantastic,
Yes.
fantastic. And also to my colleagues, Sheilah and Nashilongo, what I would like to say is that, I mean, if there are media organizations within your region which you think we can bring on board and add to our program, we have open arms and we can talk about it. We can discuss this moving forward. So I would want to say a big thank you to Nashilongo. She's been amazing. There are certain issues I didn't really have even much in depth about. I've got to learn a lot. I will also say a big thank you to Sheilah. You guys have been very insightful. I will also say a big thank you to Moro, and I'll say a big thank you to all our participants. Unfortunately, because of the initial issues we had to restrict a lot of people who had to join, but then the video will be shared in the course of the days on our various social media platforms. We say a big thank you to you all, and hopefully,
Gideon,
yes.
Let's not forget, we will take a picture.
Yes. So finally, if you can have, I mean, this is personal. If you don't want to have your camera on, we understand. But if we can all have our cameras on, so we can take a group picture as we quickly leave. So who is taking the picture?
Daniel, are you taking?
Yeah. Yes. I don't know. What background is okay.
Let me see.
Okay, so I think we are done now.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, so thank you very much. Have a wonderful day ahead, whichever time zone you are in. And we will continue these discussions. We will bring on board Nashilongo and Sheilah in our subsequent projects and get things done. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, Fadel, I see you.
Bye-bye.
So I think with the iWatch team, you stay behind so that we have
right.
a brief meeting.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.
All right, guys. Are we the only people on the call now?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Yes, now we are.
Charlie, I mean, right?
I'll try.
It seems.
Are you still recording it?
Hey.
Oh, Gideon can stop